Hello everyone, peace be upon you. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and stay with me until the end of the story. Also, leave a comment telling me which city and country you're watching from. I'd love to see how far my story has reached. For those of you who have already subscribed, I sincerely wish you good health, ease in all your affairs, abundant blessings, and may all your hopes and dreams come true. Amen. Now, let's begin the story. The Texas sun pressed hard on the asphalt at Fort Liberty. Heat shimmered above the Bravo sector as boots struck in rhythm and the smell of dust and fuel hung in the air. Olivia stepped out of the transport with a steady gait, uniform crisp, cap low, jaw set. She didn't posture, didn't scan around for approval. She just breathed once, slow, like she had done 1,000 times before, and walked toward the training field. Vega was waiting with a clipboard and that guarded look good sergeants wear. "Ma'am," he said, short and respectful. "Welcome to Fort Liberty." "Morning, Vega," Olivia answered. "Show me how things really run." He led her along the perimeter. Humvees idled. A squad dragged ropes across a sand pit. Farther out, Briggs was timing sprints, barking numbers with the confidence of someone who carried his doubts behind a grin. He glanced over when he heard Olivia's voice, then kept his eyes on the stopwatch, like he wanted her to earn his attention. "Corporal," Olivia said. "Keep them honest on the turns. They're losing speed at the cones." Briggs gave a polite nod. "Yes, ma'am." Inside Eagle Hall, the air was cool and still, flags perfectly hung, glass cases polished to a mirror shine. Colonel Mark Hensley stood behind his desk with his hands on a folder like it might bite. Tall, square shoulders, silver at the temples, a stare that measured and judged in the same second. "Captain Grant," he said, like the rank tasted different on her. "You're the new instructor." "Yes, sir." He flipped the folder open, brows skimming service records. "Afghanistan. Iraq. Commendations. I don't care about headlines. I care about results here. My results." "You'll have them," Olivia said. "No arrogance. Just a fact." He studied her face for any crack. When he didn't find one, his mouth thinned. "You start with Alpha at 0600. Do not change protocols without approval. I'll review what you have and improve what needs it," she said, even, steady. "Approval," he repeated. "Understood." Back outside, the heat hit again. Olivia set her cap, walked straight to the line. "Alpha, on me," she called. Her voice wasn't loud, just clean. Heads turned. A few quick exchanges rolled through the ranks. "New instructor, let's see, real deal or just talk?" She demonstrated first, not with a speech, but with movement. Rifle up, muzzle discipline, footwork across the cover line. She corrected grips with a tap, nudged elbows into place, shaved wasted steps off their transitions. "Less muscle, more angles," she said. "You win by seconds, not volume." It took 10 minutes for the smirks to fade and the questions to begin. Briggs raised his hand halfway, then just asked. "Ma'am, why the shorter burst on the second lane?" "Because your third target is blind side," Olivia said. "You'll need 2 beats of oxygen for the sprint. Save it now, spend it where it counts." He tried it. It worked. He didn't say anything, but the stopwatch did. By noon, the unit moved cleaner. Hydration break. Olivia walked the line, listening to the quiet kind of talk, boot sizes, weekend chow, rumors. The last one always traveled faster than the rest. At the infirmary, Naomi Ellis checked supplies with careful hands. She looked up when Olivia stopped at the door. "Just making sure we're covered for heat cases," Olivia said. "We are," Naomi answered. "If they listen to salt and water." "They will," Olivia said, and smiled once, quick. Naomi's shoulders eased a little. Afternoon brought an officer's brief back in Eagle Hall. Hensley stood at the head of the table, sleeves perfect, eyes cool. "Captain Grant," he said, "you've had one morning. Observations?" "Your schedule is packed with volume," Olivia said. "We'll cut injury by focusing on form first. Efficiency beats exhaustion." A couple of younger officers hid their interest. Hensley didn't. "No one here asked you to rewrite my training philosophy." "I'm not here to argue philosophy," Olivia said. "I'm here to deliver men who come home with all their parts." The room went quiet. Not hostile, alert. Hensley leaned back like a judge. "You have energy. Energy needs control. We do not improvise at Fort Liberty. We uphold standards." "Then let's raise them," Olivia said. He stared a second longer than was comfortable. Dismissed. Evening cooled the base by a degree, maybe two. The lights over the field buzzed against the dark, and a wind pushed dust across the bleachers. Vega stopped beside Olivia, arms folded. "They're responding," he said. "They're smart," she answered. "Give people a reason, they give you their best." Vega watched the barracks glow in the distance. Colonel's old school. "He believes fear keeps order." "Fear keeps people quiet," Olivia said. "It doesn't keep them alive." Briggs jogged past, slowed, then doubled back with a half grin. "Ma'am. Time's improved." "The cones, you were right. Keep the corners tight," Olivia said. "Tomorrow we add stress." He nodded and trotted off. Olivia took a breath of hot, dry air that still tasted like dust and jet fuel. Fort Liberty was a machine, loud and relentless. She could feel it testing her from the moment she stepped off the transport. Not just the heat or the drills. The eyes. The rules behind the rules. She looked toward Eagle Hall, where windows shone like hard stars. Somewhere inside, Hensley was already planning the next test. She understood the type. She had met him in other uniforms, other rooms. You don't beat them by shouting. You outlast them. You make the work undeniable. 0600, she said to herself. We start earlier. The flag cracked in the wind. The field settled. And beneath the hum of generators, Olivia felt the first tremor of the conflict she'd have to walk straight through, step by controlled step, until this place respected what it claimed to value. Until this place respected what it claimed to value, she told herself, and at 0600 sharp the test arrived. The horn blared across Bravo sector, floodlights still humming against the thin Texas dawn. Olivia had Alpha formed before the echo died. Short bursts, fast angles, breathe on the move, she said. No pep talk. Just work. Vega set the timer. Briggs checked lanes. Targets popped. Sand kicked. The squad moved like a clean machine, shaving seconds on every transition. By the third run they were beating the posted record by a margin that made people look twice. Word spreads fast on a base. By mid-morning, a crowd lined the fence. Hensley watched from the catwalk of the range tower, arms folded, eyes flat. When Olivia called the last drill, she swapped positions with Briggs and ran the lane herself so no one could call it show. She cleared the course with no wasted motion, rifle up, pivot, 2 beats of air banked for the final sprint, then handed the stopwatch back without a smile. The applause wasn't loud, but it was real. That was enough. Hensley came down the steps like a verdict. Alpha Company, he called, voice cutting through the dust, your new instructor thinks efficiency beats exhaustion. Let's see what efficiency does under pressure. He pointed at the north field. Live sim capture and defend. Extra opposition. 15 minutes to plan. Olivia didn't blink. Vega, map. Briggs, flanks. Keep chatter short. She split the squad into clean elements, set a decoy route, and pushed a quiet hand signal that said trust me more than any speech. When the horn sounded, smoke canisters rolled, blanks cracked, and the field became a maze. Olivia shifted the tempo, slow to fast to slow again, pulling the opposing force into dead space, then snapping control of the objective with a cut no one saw coming. 22 minutes later, Alpha held the flag in every lane like they owned the ground. The cheer that followed wasn't for her. It was for themselves. That's the kind that lasts. Hensley's smile didn't reach his eyes. Impressive, he said into the PA, smooth as glass. Captain Grant, my office. Eagle Hall felt colder by the hour. Olivia entered, cap under her arm, pulse steady. Hensley closed the door with a click that sounded a shade too loud. The folder on his desk was already open. You altered my protocols without approval, he said, each word filed to an edge. I adjusted pacing to reduce injury and increase retention, Olivia answered. The results are on the board. He stepped closer. The result, he said softly, is my officers clapping for you on my field. I didn't ask them to, she said. You didn't have to. His breath smelled faintly of bourbon, a detail she noted and set aside. This is my base, Captain. You operate inside my lines. I operate inside the standards, she said. If they're not high enough, I raise them. His jaw twitched. The mask slipped. You don't get to make me look small, he hissed. I'm not trying to make you anything, Olivia said, calm, centered. I'm trying to make them better. The glass on his credenza chimed when he set it down too hard. He moved in, close enough that his shadow edged hers. Careful, he said. Pride gets people hurt. Agreed, she said. That's why I cut it out of training. The moment stretched. Then he snapped. His hand came up, fast and open, the gesture of a man reclaiming a room the only way he knew. Her body reacted before thought. Left forearm up, wrist catch, twist out and down, redirect the force to neutral, not to injure, just stop the strike. But he yanked back hard against the joint, fighting the motion. The angle went wrong. There was a sharp crack, clean and ugly, and his face shifted from rage to shock in a single heartbeat. He stumbled, clutching his forearm, knocking the glass to the floor where it shattered into bright pieces. For a second the office held its breath. Olivia froze, hands open, every muscle ringing from the reflex. Sir, she said, voice steady but low, you raised your hand. I blocked. You broke, his words tore out of him ragged. You broke my arm. Security pounded down the hall at the sound of the crash. Hensley's shout met them at the door. She attacked me. Olivia didn't move. Call the medic, she said, eyes on the floor to keep the room from tipping into chaos. And record everything. Vega's voice was somewhere in the corridor, tight and urgent. Naomi ran past with a sling and gloves. The base had already chosen its rumor. The fight had started, and the lines were not where anyone thought they were, and by morning they'd shifted again. Rumors outran the bugle, slipping through chow lines and barracks halls. She snapped his arm on purpose. He was drunk, she mouthed off, he tried to hit her. Olivia woke to a knock and a paper. Pending inquiry, the MP said. Badge, phone, access clipped and catalogued. Vega stood a step behind them, jaw tight, eyes telling her everything he wouldn't say out loud. She handed over what they asked for and nodded once. I'll be at quarters. At the infirmary, Naomi wrapped gauze with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. She'd seen the glass, the sling, the way Hensley refused pain meds like refusal could undo physics. Across Eagle Hall, doors closed and voices lowered. By noon, Briggs reported to the range to find Alpha reassigned to a temporary training observer. The observer smiled too much and said the word compliance like it tasted sweet. Mayor Daniel Brooks arrived near dusk with a folder under his arm and a calm that steadied the corridor. Captain, he said, voice even, I'm your counsel. We don't talk to anyone alone. Not command. Not investigators. Not friends. You speak through me. Olivia nodded. Good. He took a breath. They'll press your tone, your timing, your intent. Keep your answers short. Don't fight the room. Let me fight it. The first interview room was white and humming. A recorder blinked red. Did you strike the colonel? No. Did you intend to injure him? No. What happened then? He raised his hand. I blocked. Why didn't you step away? Because stepping away teaches the wrong lesson. A pen clicked. Brooks laid a palm flat on the table, the click stopped. Outside, the base adjusted to the spectacle. Some soldiers saluted Olivia with their eyes, quick and quiet. Others looked through her, obedience reasserted by orders they hadn't seen. Hensley stayed out of sight, but his reach didn't. A supply request went missing. A training slot closed. An email thread about temperament surfaced with her name in it like a stone at the bottom of a creek. Brooks read it all, expression unchanged. Pattern, he said. We'll show it. That night, Naomi hovered at her doorway, then knocked. I shouldn't be here, she whispered when Olivia opened it. Then say what you came to say fast, Olivia answered. Naomi swallowed hard. He'd been drinking. I saw the bottle, the glass. And he said you'd learn respect. The words sat between them like a live wire. Olivia didn't move. Thank you. I'm scared, Naomi said. I know. Brooks stepped from the shadow of the hall, gentle but firm. We'll put you on the record when you're ready. No surprises. 2 days later, somebody popped Olivia's locker and her sidearm wasn't where it belonged. She reported it within minutes. The desk sergeant logged it like he was filing weather. Brooks didn't blink. They'll try to make you sloppy, he said. They need you messy so his story looks clean. Vega met them outside the admin building with a folder of quiet statements, men and women who'd seen Hensley's temper run hot across years. Unofficial, unsigned, but real. Olivia flipped through them without comment, then closed the folder. No one gets burned for me, she said. Not like this. Brooks considered, then nodded. We'll use what we can without setting matches. The preliminary hearing landed on a Thursday when the wind came hard off the flats and pushed dust into every seam of the base. The tribunal wing smelled like polish and nerves. Hensley entered with his arm in a sling and his certainty on full display. Olivia entered with her uniform perfect and her pulse lower than the hallway thought it should be. Briggs sat in back, fists locked. Vega stared straight ahead. Naomi held a foam cup with both hands and watched the door like it might decide her future. The questions came again, sharper this time, meant to wedge. Why block, not retreat? Why adjust protocols? Why their applause? Olivia gave them the same simple pieces, no heat, no apology, no extra words. And when the panel recessed, Brooks leaned close. He's forcing the narrative, he whispered. Our turn is coming. In the pause before they were called back, a thought crossed Olivia's mind as clean and cold as the AC. You don't survive this by being louder. You survive by being undeniable. Outside, the flag cracked. Inside, the recorder blinked. The fight had moved from the field to the room, and she was not leaving either, and when the panel reconvened the room felt smaller, like the walls had leaned in to hear. Brooks rose first, voice steady, eyes on the bench. Your Honors, defense calls Private Naomi Ellis. A murmur ran the gallery. Naomi walked like a person who'd practiced not shaking. She sat, swore in, and stared at the far wall to keep her voice from wobbling. State what you observed, Brooks said. I brought meds to Eagle Hall, Naomi answered. Colonel Hensley had a bottle of bourbon on the credenza. Glass was out. He was talking, saying someone would learn respect. She swallowed. 10 minutes later I heard the crash. The prosecutor tried to cut it to fog and suggestion. Brooks didn't let it stick. Direct observation. Time, place, item, he repeated, each word like a nail. The panel wrote notes that looked heavier than rumor. Then Brooks laid out the pattern. Supply delays after Captain Grant's arrival. Reassignment of training slots without docket signatures. Emails about temperament seeded from anonymous accounts that resolved to the same subnet as Eagle Hull. He clicked to a printout. This is the base access log. After-hours entries under the Colonel's credentials. Deletions surrounding the incident. He looked up. We are not asking you to guess. We are asking you to read. Hensley sat still for that, jaw like a locked vice. The prosecutor found a different angle. Captain Grant, why didn't you retreat when you perceived a threat? Because retreat teaches the wrong lesson, Olivia said. He raised a hand to an officer. The correct lesson is that hands do not land. Isn't that defiance? It's discipline, she said. It keeps people from getting hurt. The panel's chair blinked slow behind his glasses. The recorder blinked red. The air took on that staged quiet that comes right before something cracks. It cracked that night, outside the courtroom, when an urgent planning session pinged Olivia's phone with a location in the old ops wing. Brooks had told her not to go to anything alone. She texted back one word, copy, then slipped her phone into her pocket on live share and walked toward the dark corridor anyway. The floor hummed, the AC ran cold, the place smelled like dust and old paint. Hensley stepped from a doorway with the lights behind him. You thought a nurse and a stack of printouts would save you, he said, calm like a man reading weather. You embarrassed me in my house. You did that, Olivia said. He moved closer. I built this base. I kept it clean. And then you walked in and made the weak think they had a voice. You're slurring, she said, soft, not to trigger him, just to mark it with the audio. Still teaching, he sneered. His hand slid to his belt. For a second she saw only the angle, the glint. Her missing sidearm caught the light like a signal flare. Don't, she said. Say you attacked me, he breathed, stepping in. Say it now, and I let you keep the uniform. No, she said. He grabbed, fast and mean, more grab than strike, more trap than fight. She broke his grip, pivoted, and bumped his wrist with a heel of palm, a small, controlled motion to send the weapon skittering. The gun hit tile, spun, and stopped under a file cabinet. Hensley lunged, Olivia hooked his elbow and folded him down, not hard, just enough. Stop, she said. It's over. Boots thundered down the hall. Vega first, Brooks right behind with two MPs, hands where we can see them, Brooks said, voice iron. Vega swept the floor, scooped the pistol, checked the serial. Captain's sidearm, he said, eyes cutting to Hensley. Brooks held up a tablet, live share still glowing. You scheduled the meeting, Colonel. Your login. Your wing. The audio is clean. Hensley's face buckled around the eyes, not pity, not pain, rage realizing it had run out of room. This is a frame, he whispered, already hoarse. You set me up. You set you up, Brooks said. The MPs cuffed him. The sound of metal on bone rang longer than it should. Naomi appeared at the end of the hall with a medic bag she hadn't needed. Briggs stood behind her, fists at his sides, not clenched now, just there. Olivia let her breath out slow, like cooling a weapon after fire. Morning came with orders. Colonel Mark Hensley is relieved pending charges, the PA announced, flat as weather but louder. The tribunal reconvened by noon. Brooks didn't perform, he stacked. Access logs. Audio. The recovered weapon. The attempted coercion. The panel's questions shrank from challenge to confirmation. Olivia sat still and answered the few directed at her with the same four truths she'd had since the first hour. He raised a hand, she blocked, she reported, she stayed. When Hensley finally took the stand, the room felt like a held breath. He tried the old voice, control, tradition, sacrifice, but the edges were frayed. "They're dismantling discipline," he said, chin high. "They're softening us." "Discipline isn't fear," Brooks said from his table. "It's honesty under pressure." The chair cleared his throat. "We will recess for deliberation," he said, but everybody in the room knew the center had already moved. Olivia watched the flag ripple in the AC draft. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't triumphant. She was steady. The thing that had begun in a hot training lane had crossed into the cold heart of the system and met every test head-on. When the panel filed back, the air changed again, a small shift, like a range wind turning. Whatever came next, the break had already happened, and the sound of it would carry, and by the time the panel returned it had already reached every corridor in Fort Liberty. The chair read the findings in a voice that tried to be neutral and couldn't quite get there. Effective immediately, Colonel Mark Hensley is suspended pending full court-martial on charges of attempted assault, evidence tampering, and obstruction. Captain Olivia Grant is restored to duty with no adverse action. A hum rolled through the gallery like a quiet cheer that forgot to stay inside its chest. Brooks only exhaled once and set his pen down. Outside the tribunal wing, wind dragged dust across the pavement, and the flag cracked hard enough to sound like punctuation. Vega stepped up with that half-smile he saved for wins that cost something. "Ma'am." Olivia nodded. "Back to work." Briggs came from the steps, eyes bright, voice low. "Record still stands," he said, meaning the course but not just the course. She clapped his shoulder once. "Then we raise it." Administration moved like a slow machine trying to pretend it had always planned this outcome. Orders rescinded, access restored, training slots unsealed. A memo from Division echoed through inboxes: maintain standards, respect process, report misconduct. It read like policy. It landed like a warning. Brooks met Olivia in Eagle Hall, the office cooler than she remembered. "They'll want a statement," he said. "No victory laps. Just the facts." She nodded. "Facts are enough." Naomi walked in later with a clipboard and a look that mixed relief and the ache that follows adrenaline. "I wrote it out," she said, handing Brooks a short, careful paragraph. "That's all I can say without sounding like I'm trying to be brave." "You are," Olivia said. Naomi shook her head. "I was scared." "And you told the truth anyway," Olivia answered. "That's the job." By afternoon, Alpha was back on Bravo sector. The heat did what it always did. Olivia set cones, watched feet, tightened corners. "Shorter bursts on lane 2, save your breath for the sprint," she called, the same note as day 1 but heavier now, like it had earned its place. Briggs shaved another second. Vega said nothing and wrote it down. The observer who used to say compliance watched from the fence and had nothing to add. At Chow, eyes lifted from trays and then away, not out of avoidance now, but out of the base's strange habit of making a hero into yesterday's weather. Olivia liked it that way. Quiet meant the work could breathe. Brooks sat across from her with a coffee. "Hensley's counsel filed for a delay," he said. "It won't change the direction. Just the pace." "Justice is slower than a ruck," Olivia said. "But it gets there." He smiled into his cup. "You sound like you've done this before." "Different field," she said. "Same rules." Eagle Hall got a new lock code. The bourbon was boxed and catalogued, another piece of evidence with a chain of custody and a lesson stapled to it that no one bothered to print. The command climate survey went out base-wide. People rolled their eyes and filled it anyway. Naomi transferred to records with a supervisor who actually supervised. Vega got approval to formalize the efficiency blocks Olivia had piloted. Briggs took a squad to demonstrate the course for a visiting unit, ran it clean, then said 3 words into a reporter's mic, "We trained right," and walked away. That evening, the light turned copper over the motor pool. Olivia stood at the rail and listened to Fort Liberty breathe, generators, laughter, a basketball bouncing, a hymn from somebody's phone, the strange music of a place that breaks you down to build you without promising which part it will keep. Brooks joined her with 2 waters. "You want to know the moral?" he asked. "No," she said. "I want to know tomorrow's plan." He handed her a schedule. 0600, same as always. "Good," she said. When the sun slid under the horizon, she looked at the windows of Eagle Hall, no longer hard stars, just glass catching day's last light. The system hadn't become pure because of a verdict. It had simply been forced, for a minute, to remember what it was for. She could work with that. She would. And if the base ever forgot again, she knew exactly how to remind it. The reminders started small, in places no citation ever reaches. At 0558 Vega had Alpha already lined, boots squared, eyes forward. Olivia walked the row checking laces, shoulders, breathing. Corners tight. Save breath on lane 2. "Talk less, see more," she said, the same notes, not because she was stuck, but because the truth doesn't change with weather. The horn split the morning. Dust rose, targets popped, bodies moved like decisions you could measure. Briggs shaved 2 more seconds and didn't grin this time, he just nodded, like a craftsman filing the last edge. By 9, emails rolled out from division, temporary command adjustments made permanent, oversight expanded, training protocols updated with efficiency blocks and injury prevention pacing. No one wrote her name in those memos. She preferred it that way. The work would carry longer if it lived under standards instead of stories. Naomi walked past the range at her break, lifted a hand, and kept going. She had a badge for records now and a supervisor who actually read them. Quiet wins are still wins. Hensley's court-martial convened in a larger room with brighter lights and the same flag. Brooks told Olivia she didn't have to attend. She went anyway and sat against the back wall. The charges read like a ledger: attempted assault, evidence tampering, obstruction. The defense tried to pour concrete over narrative, service, sacrifice, tradition, but the slab didn't set. Access logs don't salute rank. The panel found him guilty on the counts that mattered. Sentencing would follow through channels. He didn't look for her as they led him out. She wouldn't have nodded if he had. Some endings don't need eye contact. Back on Bravo sector, a visiting unit asked to see the famous course. Vega said there were no famous courses, just work done right. Briggs walked them through the lines, showed them where most people waste oxygen, where fear speeds your feet but slows your hands. He used "we" for everything and "I" for nothing. That was the new language, not invented by a memo but enforced by a habit. Eagle Hall changed, too. The credenza was just furniture again. The glass cases still shone, but not like mirrors, more like reminders. Olivia stood in the doorway to the office where it had all bent sideways and listened to the air. Nothing haunted it, the room was just a room. She signed off on a training schedule and left. Commendations came the way they always do, official, stiff, almost embarrassed. For professionalism under pressure, the certificate read. A general shook her hand with a public voice. Cameras flashed, quick, respectful. After, Brooks found her by the loading dock. "You did well," he said. "You kept the thread." She sipped from a paper cup. "You kept the system honest long enough for it to work." He chuckled. "That's the job." She shrugged. "It's everybody's." That weekend, the base held a small formation. No speeches, just a flag detail and a bugle. The sound ran across the motor pool and bounced off the hangar doors. Olivia watched faces, tired, stubborn, decent, and felt the simple gravity of a place that asks more than it promises. Vega stepped closer. "We're better," he said. "Not fixed. Better." "Better is enough for today," she answered. "Tomorrow we push again." At Chow, a private asked if discipline was fear or honesty. Olivia told him the only answer she trusted: discipline is doing the right thing at the right speed, even when no one is watching. He nodded like he'd pocketed a tool and walked away eager to use it. Naomi sat for a minute at the end of the table and talked about nothing: coffee, a song her mother liked, the way Texas heat makes metal sing. Relief doesn't always laugh. Sometimes it just talks about small things until your hands stop shaking. Letters arrived from places Olivia would never visit: a parent in Ohio, a retired sergeant in El Paso, a cadet who'd watched the hearing clips and decided not to quit after all. She read them at night under the weak lamp in her quarters and put them back in their envelopes, not to keep the past alive but to keep the line straight. On Monday, Division sent word: she'd rotate out in spring to help stand up a training program elsewhere. She looked at the date, did the math, and wrote one sentence back: "I'll leave it better than I found it." Then she went to the field and proved it was not just a line. Alpha cleaned the course under full sun. An ambulance idled, and no one needed it. The new observer took notes and stayed quiet. Briggs called times without flourish. Vega logged everything with the neat block print of a man who knows records outlast memory. As twilight dropped behind the barracks, Olivia stood at the fence and thought about how the story would be told when it wasn't hers to tell. Some would make it grander, some smaller. She hoped they'd keep the scale honest: a hand raised that shouldn't have been, a block taught by a lifetime of choosing purpose over pride, a base that remembered itself for a while. No more. No less. She didn't need statues. She needed standards that didn't slip when the room got hot. The lights buzzed on. Wind shifted warm. Somewhere a game started, somewhere a prayer, somewhere a laugh that sounded like a gate opening. Brooke sent a text: 0600 stays 0600. And she sent back: always. She pressed her palms to the rail and felt the metal hold, steady, workmanlike, exactly enough. If Fort Liberty ever forgot again, it would hear the reminder in the cadence of boots and the breathing between shots, in the routine that refuses to be corrupted because too many decent people own it. When she finally turned from the field, she didn't look back to make sure it was still there. She didn't have to. The lesson had outgrown her, the way the best lessons do. Tomorrow would come early and loud, and she would meet it like she met every other morning, on time, eyes clear, ready to raise the corners and bank the breath, so that the people who did the hard work could go home with all their parts and all their dignity. That was the ending she trusted. That was the one she built.